The views and opinions expressed on Community Matters are those of the program participants and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Mountainplex Media. It's time now for Community Matters, a public affairs program right here every Sunday morning at 8:30 on this Mountainplex Media radio station. This morning we're talking to volunteers from the Summers County Humane Society. And also in studio this morning, Jacob Perez, who is the Animal Control Officer in Summers County. First on the mic this morning, it's Gail Rancer, volunteer with the Summers County Humane Society. So Gail, you've got the mic this morning. Who did you bring with you today?
I have Cheryl Miller here with the Summers County Humane Society, otherwise known as the Animal Control and Welfare Project Incorporated, which we formed in Summers County about 30 years ago.
30, yeah.
30. Mm-hmm. So Cheryl's been our president. Say hi.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Cheryl and I were happy to attend a grand opening of a clinic in Princeton, and we're going to be talking about that and how that could impact at least addressing more of our needs here in Summers County. We also have Jacob Perez, who is the Summers County Animal Control Officer.
Good morning, everybody.
Steve Lilly, who is a foster parent, someone who has helped clean up a lot of puppy poo since we got involved with fostering. But fostering is a big part of what we do because Summers County Humane Society does not have a shelter. We do not have any kind of program like that. All dogs that we rescue end up in foster care before we're able to find forever homes for them. So we have Steve Lilly.
Good morning. Welcome to our event.
And Lisa Eads, who is the Summers County Administrator.
Hello, good morning.
Lisa is also a volunteer with our group in addition to working with the county. This is, like I said, a totally volunteer-based organization. For 30 years, we have tried to save as many as, Cheryl? A dog a day is our goal.
That was always our goal, a dog a day. And we've been lucky enough because of our spay-neuter numbers to reduce that number, which has been really surprising for us.
And spay and neuter is a big part of what we dedicate ourselves to. And we'll talk about funding that we have to help people and vouchers and some updated information about how some of the process has changed. It's not going to be as easy as just getting a voucher and calling a vet. There's going to be a little bit more to it now. Jacob joined us in the past year, and Jacob is the Animal Control Officer, or otherwise known in other communities as the dog catcher, I guess. Jacob basically responds to calls in the community through the Sheriff's Department to rescue. And, well, why don't you tell us what you do?
Okay, yeah, so I respond to calls that I get all around the county, including inside the city. And I basically go and kind of assess the situation of the dogs, whether it's neglect or abuse or, or a vicious animal, something of that sort. We also deal with wild animals, surprisingly. The DNR usually has to go seize them if that's the case, but if we have to deal with some wild stuff, we do. But the focus is mainly dogs and cats, if we can, around the county. When I get them, if I have to either take the animal or if I have to take it for neglect or abuse, I take it to our kennels that's over at the Solid Waste Authority. And from there, you guys kind of take it, from there to try to find foster homes for them, get them forever homes, whatever it may be. And I mean, you guys do an amazing job. It's so much help, especially the volunteers who come in on the weekends to cover that kind of stuff and things like that. But yeah, overall, it's mainly just making sure that the animals around here are safe, taken care of, and just that's pretty much the overall thing we try to focus on. So.
Cheryl Miller and the Summers County Humane Society went to the Summers County Commission. It's creeping up on 3 winters ago to ask for emergency help. Prior to working with Jacob and having this facility that we have, which is basically a temporary emergency facility, we didn't have anywhere to put dogs when they were picked up. So Cheryl and the whole group addressed the Summers County Commission begging really for help.
We got about $10,000 and were able to buy kennels. And we put those kennels up in a temporary building. We've had local people provide heat to make sure those animals are kept warm enough in the bad weather. And the hope is now that we build a permanent building that's going to be much more sufficient to the needs of the county.
And specifically, we're supposed to call it kennels. It's not going to be a shelter.
It's not a shelter. A shelter implies that we have the medical resources to also take care of their animals, and we don't in the county. We hire veterinarians to do that through their practices. But to put up a shelter in a community probably costs $1 million. So our goal is just to keep the dogs safe while we integrate them into foster homes.
I guess one of the big parts of this, the need for it, was when we'd get dogs, when the Summers County Sheriff would get dogs, or the previous dog catcher, or dogs came into the Summers County Humane Society, there was really nowhere to put them until they were vetted. And there was some concern about bringing dogs that may be infected with any number of things, like parvo,
distemper and rabies.
And then there's also an issue with some kinds of bacterias and parasites that are highly contagious. So a lot of us fosters who are volunteers, and I'm one of those, happily enjoy fostering dogs in our home. We've brought in dogs that have been pretty emaciated, pretty loaded with worms, things that could infect our homes. And Cheryl can tell you about the risks of parvo.
Parvo is probably the easiest thing that's contaminated through, and it's through feces, but you can't see it. And even if there is no feces around where you have an animal, if a dog walks through infected feces, can carry it for hours. Every step that dog takes is putting parvo at risk for other animals, and that includes raccoons who can spread the parvo also. So we have to be very careful when we get animals in that we isolate them and make sure that they are healthy before we can even integrate them into our homes, so our homes don't become contaminated. And once your facility is contaminated, it is a bear to get it clean. And we dealt with that last year with the shelter, with the kennels. And it took several times and several months where we were not even allowed to put puppies there, because puppies are the most able to contract the parvo. As a dog gets older and hopefully vaccinated, they become immune to it.
So Jacob, you've talked briefly about the effort to build new kennels. Mm-hmm. It's going to be costly. There's some money in the coffers. And where are we with this as we go into the third winter of trying to keep dogs warm?
So right now we're taking bids openly for these kennels. Then we'll have something, and the commissioners will have something to open up, and we'll be able to hopefully get it going before next winter. That's pretty much the goal. We have to do it this way because legally we have to have the bidding up and open to everybody, and it has to be opened up for a certain amount of time. So it does take a little bit of time, but we're trying to get it going as fast as possible. And to kind of go off of the quarantine thing, I've been working closely with Lisa to kind of deal with the building and how we want to set it up and things like that. And we want to get a quarantine area in there because, like you said, it's very important to make sure that any dogs we bring in can go to a separated area from the rest of the animals so they're not contaminating them. Right now, we don't really have access to something like that with the kennels that we have. So if I get any animals that seem lethargic or anything, either any parvo symptoms, anything like that, I usually take them right to the vet and don't even bring them to our kennels until they give me a diagnosis of everything. So we're trying our best to get those kennels up, and we're hoping that it's going to be up before next winter, and it's supposed to have quite a bit. It's really nice from the ones we're looking at and whatnot. So I think it would help out a lot, and I think it's big to make sure people do know that it isn't a shelter, because I do get a lot of calls of people wanting to just kind of give their animals to us, but really we have to prioritize the animals that need us first, you know what I mean, instead of the owners that need us. So but yeah, it's I think by next winter we should hopefully have something. So
Well, Jacob, I think you and Lisa, you're a volunteer in addition to being the county administrator now. You volunteer quite a bit at the kennel.
Yes.
What's it like?
People, I guess, don't realize what they can do if they're not able to foster dogs. They're actually able to help volunteer in other ways. So the first way I started helping, since I already have 4 dogs of my own and I cannot bring any more into my house, is I started just doing the laundry. So that's one thing that's needed, is when these dogs get transported, they have to put some blankets in their kennels that are their transport kennels, and those blankets get soiled and they need to be washed. And so that's one way a person can help volunteer, is to wash the laundry. Now on the weekends, so we do have an animal control officer, which is Jacob, and he works full time, but that's Monday through Friday. And so on the weekends, unless he's taking his time off to go help with the dogs, we don't really have somebody to help the dogs and walk the dogs and feed the dogs. And so the county and the Humane Society and the Sheriff's Department, we have a memorandum of understanding where the Humane Society helps bring volunteers like myself to come walk these dogs. So now we have coverage on the weekends. If for some reason the Humane Society is not able to cover it, the Sheriff's Department does cover it. But the Humane Society's been able to help with the volunteers they have. They have a couple dozen volunteers that are regularly helping either foster or walk or drive dogs or whatever it may be. And this group is great.
Cheryl, as leader of the group, let's ask you, how many volunteers do we have? How many members does Sumner County Humane Society have?
So on our records, we have probably about 70 volunteers. Some of them are older. Some of them maybe just might drive once in a while to, we have dogs that need medical services, so they need a ride to the veterinarian. So it may be an hour out of your day just doing that. And so we don't really have we have specific lists of people who just foster and some people who just want to drive transports. We have one person who drives 2 to 3 days a week because she can't foster, because she has a dog that doesn't get along well with other dogs. So she gives in other ways.
And it's a team.
Yes.
I think as long as I've been involved with the Summers County Humane Society, that's what you stress the most, Cheryl, as the leader.
We back each other up on a lot of things. I'm fostering 6 puppies right now, but I'm going away for the holidays. So I have 2 different volunteers stepping up to help me take my puppies so I can go away and not worry about them getting cared for. I have 2 dogs of my own, which I can find a neighbor to take care of, but I don't want to ask a neighbor to have to worry about taking care of puppies, and puppies are a lot of work. Gail knows that too.
Oh, yes. Now, Steve and I have been volunteering as foster parents for dogs for almost 2 years. And it really is the most rewarding experience ever. But it's multi-factional. I mean, there are a lot of different parts to caring for dogs. Steve, you've done your load of shoveling and schlepping dogs to and from the vet, and to rescues up north. Can you tell me what your life is like when you're a foster parent?
Puppies are a lot of fun as far as that, because they're puppies. They're pretty messy, and it takes a lot of work. It's kind of a full-time thing when you're handling puppies. We've had about 36 dogs, I think, at our house that we fostered, and all of them have been a lot of fun and a lot of work, but it's the kind of work that you feel good about. We've also, I've had the opportunity, and Gail along with me, to drive our van around, and we've taken dogs to Maryland to meet up with other teams who adopt those dogs, and cats over to Christiansburg, and just vet drives back and forth to Peterstown. And all of that has been a lot of fun. It has its trials and tribulations, but it's the kind of thing that you can do as a volunteer. If you would like to join us in some way, you can do that without having to have a dog in your house, or without, a whole lot of difficulty. You can drive or do some other help.
And it's something that you and I have both loved doing. We try to recruit other people to become foster volunteers because the need is great. You've got, 12 dogs in the kennels right now in need or in the system?
Yeah, let's say possibly in the system. At our kennels, we can only hold about 5 or 6 dogs. But I know whenever we do need space, you guys do a good job of getting 1 or 2 of them out of there, and then someone's usually having to pick up the foster. But it probably about that many that you guys have all together. So yeah.
And then there's always a waiting list. There are always dogs in need of rehoming. If you are a senior citizen, for example, and you really don't feel like you can afford to own a dog, this is a great opportunity for you to open your home, even for a short time, sometimes just days, a couple of weeks, sometimes a month, to make a home for a dog. And the Summers County Humane Society provides pretty much everything you need. If you feel like you could open your home, even for the holidays, for some poor little foster dog or a puppy, this would be a great time to call the Summers County Humane Society and volunteer. How would you recommend that people most efficiently reach you?
I'd say private message us on social media. And that will be the easiest way for us, because we're all volunteers. We don't sit by a phone and wait for someone to call. We do have a phone number. It's on our website, and but everything goes to voicemail. So the social media would probably be the best way to communicate with us.
So as a volunteer, you could step up just for, a few days. Anything. If you love animals, this is a great way to help. When we talk to people about recruiting, people to become foster volunteers, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I wouldn't be able to part with them. I couldn't do that because I would get attached." Well, the truth is, you do get attached.
And they get attached to you, which it is so wonderful, because you are not only saving a life, but you're changing a life. But you also have to remember you're changing the life of the person who eventually is going to adopt that dog. But you know that you are saving lives, and that's what makes it really special.
Absolutely. So I would highly recommend that you try it, and especially this time of year when it is so cold. Trying to keep them warm in the kennel is a challenge, and some of these dogs they're heartbroken. A couple that we've had were actually in mourning because 2 different dogs came to us where their owner had died, and they just need love. But the gratifying part of this is the feedback that we get from the rescues we work with and the photos we see of the puppies and dogs that we've fostered with their new owners, and how happy the dogs are by being in our homes. They're more socialized. We can tell future owners about their personalities, what they can do, what they can't do, and work with them and get them ready for new homes. But there's a transition period that goes along with fostering too. Sometimes it takes a few days or weeks for a dog to become acclimated to a foster home or a new home.
Probably longer, and that's where the patience comes in, where that they're not healthy, or they're mourning because they've lost their owner, and so they're looking for support, emotional. So sometimes they just need to sit in someone's lap. If you're watching TV at night, have a dog sitting in your lap, it just changes them. And I've had puppies that you couldn't touch, and within 2 or 3 days, you can just see them starting to relax and their personalities change. And then, of course, they do get attached to you, but they're young and they're resilient. And the exciting thing about puppies is we work with a lot of rescues, and while rescues will usually take adult dogs, when they take puppies, they have big adoption events, and these puppies usually are adopted very quickly.
We adopt some out into the community too.
Yes. which leads us to another issue, the fact that we have very few veterinarians, and we have standing appointments at some of our veterinarians, but it might take us 2 to 3 weeks to get those puppies all seen by the veterinarian. So they are not available for adoption at this point.
Again, Cheryl Miller is the president of the Summers County Humane Society, and Cheryl and I were very happy to attend a grand opening over in Princeton recently for a long-anticipated opening of Forever Fixed Incorporated, which is a new low-cost spay-neuter clinic.
It's low cost in that if you go to other places in the country, you might pay $400 and $500 to get your animals spayed or neutered. These clinics are operating on basically $100 to $200, which still is a lot of money in this day and age, but it's a lot less than if you were anywhere else in the country. One of the things that we have prided ourselves on is the grants that we've been able to get to help people in the community with spay and neuter. Our grant money has run out this year. We have spayed and neutered over, I think, about 400 animals this year. And I'd have to check with the numbers to see, but we work with the West Virginia Department of Agriculture and get grant money, and that is funneled through us, and then we provide vouchers for community members.
Vouchers help with spay and neuter, but sometimes you have to wait. They're not available 12 months out of the year, and when it comes to spaying and neutering, as a pet owner, I know sometimes you just can't wait. And for this low-cost clinic, this is an opportunity for people to spend less, but to work directly with Forever Fixed. How would you suggest people work with them while they're waiting for a voucher?
Well, at this point, you can just call them and get on their waiting list because they've just opened. They're still waiting for their nonprofit status. So they're operating right now as a profitable business until that status is achieved, and that just takes time. But at this point, make a phone call and get an appointment. That's the biggest thing, because there's waiting lists for all the clinics now. All the veterinarians have their hands full spaying and neutering dogs and cats in Summers County.
I've got a flyer that they handed us when we were there talking about how to get in touch with Forever Fixed. If you're driving, of course, you don't have a pen. It's hard to write down a phone number. So let me give you ways that you can get in touch with them. It's called Forever Fixed, FUREVER Fixed Inc. .inc at gmail.com. You can text them at 304-961-6184, and their address is Forever Fixed Inc., 1003 Shelter Road in Princeton, 24739. And I'm sharing this information because, of course, donations are always needed, not only for the Summers County Humane Society, ACWP, and all of our efforts, but anything you can do to support any shelter in our community, in our wider area, because the need is great. Anyone who works in animal rescue knows that rescuing animals is like trying to drain an ocean with a teaspoon.
Oh yeah, yep. Especially when it comes to the spay and neutering, I can't harp on how important that is, because it makes it feel like it's almost an uphill battle when you just get puppies into a forever home, and then I get a call about 2 more litters of puppies that I have to go pick up because someone has them and they can't deal with them. It comes down to just being a responsible owner. If you're going to have your dogs not spay and neutered, then you need to take the precautions to not make sure they don't have puppies. And if you do have the money to, or if you need the help to, contact the ACWP or them. What is it again? Forever Fixed. Yeah, Forever Fixed.
Forever.
Yeah, yep. And just get your dogs spayed and neutered, because it really helps out with the county. It helps out with us being able to have space for more dogs that are neglected or abused. So yeah, just like I said, it comes down to being a responsible owner, and I'm hoping more people around Summers County can hear this and know how important it is to get it done. So
the West Virginia Spay and Neuter program provides so much money to assist in the effort to spay and neuter. I mean, it's an expense. So we need to talk for a moment about responsible dog ownership, pet ownership, because I know a lot of the calls you get, Jacob, probably are people concerned because owners are not as responsible as they could be?
Definitely. The biggest problems I've noticed are dogs kind of able to just roam free rather than being, whether it's in a kennel or whether it's tied up, and we have ordinances that you guys can follow to stay within the limits of that when you have them tied up. But a lot of it's just wandering dogs who go and they'll jump the fence to another female dog that isn't spayed, get her pregnant, and they don't even know what happened or which dog did what, and so that's a big problem. So also chaining up your animals or keeping them kept up is super important, especially if they're not neutered and spayed. So I think if people start being a little more responsible and kind of follow our ordinances as a county and things like that, it would help out quite a bit.
And Cheryl, some of the policies or procedures have changed with some of our vets. I think there are 300 veterinarians to serve the entire state of West Virginia. It's not enough. And waiting lists to get into vets sometimes can take months. And vets are becoming a little bit more stringent. They're a little bit stressed by the need. Can you tell me what changes now? I think in March is when Summers County gets vouchers to share with people who need them in the community.
That's when the grant money becomes available through the Department of Agriculture. And then we have to organize and then start dispersing the vouchers. But the problem we're having is the fact that there's only 3 local vets. One is actually outside of Summers County, but she has been working with us for years. But most of the vets are so full that they're not taking new clients. So if you are an existing client, you can immediately get a voucher when the voucher money becomes due. But if you're not a new client, then you have to establish a relationship with your veterinarian first before that vet will spay or neuter your animal. So that means you have to make an appointment. You have to have the dog checked out, make sure it's up to date on its vaccinations and its rabies, and then within a week after that, we could arrange to have your dog spayed or neutered.
If you have an interest in promoting this cause, please support the West Virginia Spay Neuter program and the expenditures the state of West Virginia takes on to help control the growing population of dogs and cats. I want to thank you all for being here. Cheryl Miller, who is the president of Summers County Humane Society, ACWP, Jacob Perez, who's our animal control officer through the Sheriff's Department in Summers County, Lisa Eads, the county administrator, Steve Lilly, foster parent and volunteer for dogs, and myself, Gail Rancer. And I would like to ask you, please, if you want to volunteer, Cheryl will tell us the best way to get an application to volunteer, or if you could direct us to how people could make donations to ACWP directly or maybe through the Hinton Area Foundation.
The best way is to go on our website. It's acwp-wv.org. There are applications for fostering, for volunteering, and there's also that good old donate button that goes through PayPal or your credit cards. And if you want to talk to somebody, the best thing to do would be to go on our Facebook page, Summers County Humane Society /ACWP, and private message us. And a volunteer will get back to you. It usually takes a couple days for someone to respond to you, but we will definitely respond to you and talk to you about different ways that you could volunteer.
You've been listening to Community Matters, a public affairs program right here every Sunday morning at 8:30 on this Mountainplex Media radio station. This morning, we've been talking to volunteers with the Summers County Humane Society. Questions, comments, and suggestions can be emailed to WMTD@mountainplex.com, or you can mail it to WMTD, Post Office Box 100, Hinton, West Virginia, 25951. Thanks for listening to Community Matters on this Mountainplex Media radio station.